Man.
I'm playing that right now.
You're playing it on the piano. And you're singing.
I'm playing the piano.
And you're singing. Then action features.
Nobody does it better than us.
Never, never, never say never again. Never say never again. Never say. That one's horrible.
I don't know, man.
Never say never again is it's a pretty bad theme song. It's pretty bad.
It's not my least favorite.
Well, I think the worst part about it is that it plays over the opening sequence.
I kind of like that.
I don't like that because it's kind of an action-packed opening sequence.
It's a great opening sequence.
But it's got this song behind it, like never, never, never say never.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Hey, what? Hey, what? What?
There might have been some copyright that kept them from doing a title sequence.
Yeah, I think anything that was created in the Bond movies they couldn't do. Well,
we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Whoa.
Whoa. Here.
Oh.
Hold the phone. Hey everybody, it's Action Features. I don't know what episode number, 152, 153? Something like that.
It's the one you've been waiting for.
It's the one you've been waiting for.
Take a break from whatever's going on in your life, whatever's going on in the world. We're going to get to something we can all agree on here.
It's probably not the one you've been waiting for. Unless you're a huge James Bond fan. Then maybe.
Even if you're not a huge one, doesn't everybody kind of...
Everybody should like James Bond. They really should.
Everybody likes at least one Bond.
They're fun, man. So this is when we teased last go round. Everything okay?
Yeah.
Jumping up too high?
The sound seems high. Mine's a little high.
Okay. Is it all right over here?
It's okay. We'll make it. Just
keep going.
Just keep going.
So we can't go into every single movie.
Yeah.
We can't do an in-depth. I mean, over time we probably could.
There have been 25?
Yeah, I think it's 25. I don't think it's possible to do it all and in-depth with each film. Like, sometimes we've done that where we've kind of given an opinion on each film. Because there's a lot in each movie to talk about. There's the theme song, and there's the villain, there's the Bond girl, there's Bond himself. So I think we're really going to tackle it more as the decade of
the franchise as a whole.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll go in chronological order.
Yeah.
There's a good chance we might do Goldfinger one day, or
for sure.
We might pick and choose a couple that are...
to give a full treatment to. But for now, this is just kind of a comprehensive Bond episode. So, where do you want to start?
Well, I want to start from the beginning.
Okay.
Ian Fleming writes these novels. He sets out to write the greatest spy novel ever made. I believe he pulled the name James Bond off of
a birdwatching book.
A birdwatching book written by a guy named James Bond. Yeah. And he was like, well, that'll do. And
because he wanted a nondescript name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's innocuous. So there it is, and now it's the most famous name in the world.
It's who I was named after.
Really?
Not really.
I would believe it, though, because your dad loves James Bond. You're a big fan.
My dad's name is Thomas James John. It's weird.
Okay.
So I got James.
So you got the... Yeah. Okay.
But it did work out.
Right.
Because it's a cool name.
Hey, you got a cool one.
All take it, man.
I'll just have mine. I'll just do what I can.
Mikey likes it. You got that.
That's what I got.
You got that, All right. Well, that's something.
Okay, so everybody thinks that the cinematic James Bond started with Dr. No in 1962.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
It started with an American show, Climax Theater.
Yeah.
And it was Casino Royale, which, oddly, there have been more versions of this than any of the other stories.
Yeah.
And it still was the one that we were waiting for, and it was still the
real Bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, in 1954, it was a television adaptation. Everything is flipped. So Bond is an American working for...
He's Jimmy Bond.
Card Sense Jimmy Bond. Yeah. With the Combined Intelligence Agency, and he meets British contact Clarence Leiter
which becomes
Casino
the American
Royale, which
Felix Leiter.
Right. Well, yeah, they flipped it for this because it was an American show. Peter Lorre is Le Chiffre.
Asharif?
It's very condensed because it's I think it might have been an hour.
Yeah.
If that. But if you're a Bond fan or you're curious about Bond and you haven't seen it, I'd say go ahead and look it up. It's on I think it's on YouTube. But it's for all the places it falls short, it's pretty entertaining still. It's a good spy or noir little take on it. But things really start to take off in 1962 when Sean Connery takes on the role.
So Dr. No becomes the first of the Eon Bond films.
Yeah.
Even though I think they were working on so before Dr. No happens though, Ian Fleming was working with what's his name? The guy that ended up doing Never Say Never Again on a script for what would become the book Thunderball.
Yeah.
And so then when that doesn't happen, he takes the ideas that he was making with, I can't remember the guy's name now, this writer, he takes those ideas and puts them in the book Thunderball, and then there becomes a lawsuit between the two of them. But then the Eon deal happens past that, and Dr. No becomes the actual first Bond film, and Sean Connery the first Bond.
Now, Ian Fleming classically was picturing David Niven, or I think Hoagie Carmichael was one. I think a name that got passed around, but he didn't like Sean Connery.
Not at first, yeah.
Not at first, and which is kind of odd. If you look at the daily strips that were in the newspaper from that time, those were out before Dr. No came out. The way Bond is drawn, he looks like Sean Connery.
Yeah,
and that's something.
That is something.
I think that's worth.
Well,
something.
After meeting him and seeing what he did, then he did say that he loved Connery in the role. Okay. It's just beforehand.
Yeah,
that he was looking for some English and this, but once he actually got to know Connery, then he really loved Connery.
I think in the books he has a Scottish heritage.
He added that in because of Connery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
I'm almost positive.
Okay.
That's the case. Because at that point he's still writing books. He doesn't pass away until Goldfinger maybe.
Yeah, until
Goldfinger comes out, maybe?
I don't think he made it to Thunderball.
Yeah, because I don't think the last book he was writing, I can't remember which one it was, but it was he didn't get a chance to do finishing touches on it before it made it out there. But okay, so let's get into Dr. No. So Dr. No is the first one, so that becomes the Connery era of Bond.
Yeah.
And that lasts from 1962 until, let's see, we got one missing spot, but so he went from 1962 until 1971, and then comes back again later on for a non-Eon film, but let's just cover that. So he's basically your 60s Bond.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, for that decade.
Other than one, he's your 60s Bond.
And my favorite Bond.
I think it's almost everybody's favorite Bond.
Almost. I do know some people who's is Roger Moore.
I think a lot of times it is who you grew up with.
I think that has a big thing.
But we grew up with Timothy Dalton. And I love Timothy Dalton now.
I do too.
But I think as my dad introduced me to Bond, and his Bond was Connery, then that becomes my Bond.
Yeah.
Even though, looking at all his films as a whole, there's a couple really, really strong ones and a couple of not so great ones. So it's it's a balance of, not every one of his movies was great.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the Bonds are like that, where they have a really couple good solid films and then some that are not so solid.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was faultless as Bond. He did some really strong films and a couple of them that are not so strong.
I think the only one that maybe could be blamed, you can't blame him for the other ones not being as strong, except for maybe in You Only Live Twice.
Yes, he looks bored.
He's very tired of it.
He does not really want to, it doesn't feel like he's there with the film.
No. And he was very tired. He's said that, Broccoli didn't treat him very well. They would take him on tour. He'd go to premiere, and they wouldn't have anything set up for him, so he'd have to go in a public restroom or something and just get mobbed. He would just get mobbed.
He was huge at that point.
He was constantly getting
a huge star.
So, yeah, he was just tired of the absolute huge fame that came from it.
Yeah, you can go back and watch some of the videos after Goldfinger's out. And anytime they're filming or anything where he's anywhere, it's like the Beatles.
Yeah.
He's getting mobbed by people. So do you want to break down each film, sort of, or you just want to talk about?
Well, for sure. So Dr. No is very fun to me.
It is.
I still do love Dr. No. some people might think it's a little bit dated, and I could see why, but I love. It's a little bit more fantastical because he goes to this. Well, not than some of the other ones, but it's a pretty strong start. Good introduction to the character. It's the movie that. Well, it's the first one. That's where they start introducing the humor.
Yeah.
And I say start because the books had already been around for maybe a decade or whatever. And some of those things were happening off the cuff that Sean Connery was doing, or they would discuss it when they were filming, and he would make little comments. Well, they were on their way to a funeral. And, and they were like, well, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great. What if we did more of that? Anyway, fantastic movie, I think.
I also like that it's minimal on gadgets because it's first starting out.
Yeah.
He has like old school spy tricks, like when he's in his hotel room and he puts the hair on the thing to see if anybody opens it, and the talcum powder or whatever to see if anybody touches his briefcase. So I like that it's like a minimalist approach. We haven't gone into crazy gadgets and Q and all this stuff. It's just like a mystery.
It's a straight spy movie. It's not to the gadget point yet.
It's also got one of my favorite Bond as a, the term BA gets thrown around a lot nowadays, but it's got one of the most BA film moments is when Dent, the professor guy, he's got a Smith & Wesson, and he's had his shots, and Bond is playing it so cool.
He thinks he gets the drop on him.
He thinks he's got it.
Because
Bond that gun towards him.
Yeah, Bond's put the pillows under the butt, and he busts into the room and shoots him.
Yeah.
And he empties his whole clip.
He doesn't know that, though.
Right.
So he's thinking he's getting that gun over to him. He's inching it over to him.
Bond flips the light on.
Yeah.
He's sitting in that chair, calm as can be. He lights a cigarette.
Oh, he's so cool in that scene.
Oh, man, it's...
And when he goes to shoot, and Bond's just so cool, like just sitting there.
He doesn't flinch at all because he knows.
Smith & Wesson. You've had your 6.
And you've had your 6.
And just kills him, and then just takes off the silencer like it's no big deal and blows in it and stuff. He's just so cool, man. And that scene is so cool. And that's just like, if you just want the definition of Connery as Bond, just that one scene can tell you like what his Bond was. Man, he's so cool.
It's fantastic.
And you got to mention Honey Rider.
You have to mention Honey Rider.
She's like a prototype. She's a prototype, obviously, for all the Bond girls, and very iconic in that bathing suit with the knife and all that stuff. Maybe not one of my favorite Bond girls. Not because there's not a lot going on.
Not one of mine either, but yeah, the
imagery is more iconic than the Bond girl
exactly
herself.
When she comes out of the ocean and she, like you said, that white bathing suit with the knife hanging off the side and the blonde hair, it is iconic.
Yeah.
But yes, Ursula Andress is Honey Rider.
So do you have a ranking for the Bonds, like for each person's films, like each actor's films, like where you would put this on your list of Connery?
Oh, this is it's really hard for me. To me, the first 4 movies really are very close to the literary sources, and even though they do kind of get a little more exaggerated, they're all reined in to being like this is still a serious movie. So it's really hard. From Russia with Love, Dr. No, I don't know if I can rank them.
I did. I tried to rank them as I go.
You go with your ranking.
All right. Well, for me, Dr. No is the 3rd best Connery film.
Okay.
And then we move on to From Russia with Love, which is the 2nd Connery film. So we can't spend too much time.
No, it's going to be really hard.
13 minutes in, we've covered one movie.
From Russia with Love was made because President Kennedy said that year that it was his favorite
of the Bond book.
His favorite book that he had read. And so they said, well, we got to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And they made that the 2nd one. From Russia with Love is maybe I don't want to say number 1, but maybe number 1 or 2.
It's number 2 for me.
It's really
number
high.
1 for my dad.
It's really high.
Yeah. I think it's got one of the best Bond hench villain guys.
Yeah.
With Red Grant.
It's
Robert Shaw.
It's Robert Shaw, and he's Red Grant, and he's fun. This is the movie to me that is just walking the line between. We talked about Dr. No being very basic. In this movie, he gets the attaché case, and it has the secret compartments with the knife,
and the gadgets.
Yeah, it's like, but it's still grounded, more realistic. Tatiana Romanova is up there for Bond girls for me, and I love the soundtrack to it, and just the whole feel. She's
also becoming more what the Bond girls become.
Yeah,
where it's Sometimes they're a little bit on the bad guy side, but they come around a little bit towards him, and there's more of a layers to the character. Whereas I think Honey Rider, there wasn't a lot of layers there for that character.
No.
And we get like a main villain. We get to introduce to more of the Spectre's organization and not just Dr. No. Right. We see the chains of command there, where it's like the flip flop of what Bond is and his versus Spectre and theirs. And Grant's kind of like the counterpoint to Bond.
There's a lot of brilliant shots in there. There's a lot of the opening sequence with you think it's Sean Connery, he gets killed, and then Grant pulls the mask off. That's awesome. He's training, and it's that was kind of a bold move to do that for the second movie, and we can't move on without mentioning the fight scene on the train. I think it's just one of the best fight scenes.
It was great,
probably ever filmed
for sure.
So anyway,
that's number 2 for me.
From Russia with Love is awesome.
And the next one is the one that everybody always fights back and forth between being the number 1 film, and that's Goldfinger. Yeah. And that is my number 1 Bond film overall. Yeah. Not just the number 1 Connery. That's the number 1 for me. Yeah. It's got everything.
It sets the pace
for sure.
This was like the breakthrough movie. This was the one that was
where it became huge.
Yeah, and they started really getting the comedic timing. There wasn't a whole lot of that in From Russia with Love. They kind of pulled back on the humor it seemed. That movie seems very serious to me, in my recollection. Goldfinger just pulls out all the stops with the fun. It's just a fun movie from start to finish.
For sure.
It's got
the best bad guy.
Yes.
It's got one of the best henchmen. It's got one of the best Bond girls. It's got the best car. It's got the coolest gadgets. It's got Bond being super cool throughout the entire movie. It's got a cool plot that actually improved on the book's plot.
Yeah.
It's just, man, it's...
The visual image of coming in and finding that girl painted in gold
or Bond when he's on the table and the laser's coming up. You expect me to talk? That's so Bond. Like, I remember the commercials for like the Bond VHS tape set. That was like the scene.
I think when people think about James Bond,
exactly. That's the track they think about.
It's stuff from that movie that they think about.
Yeah, just so much fun from start to finish. I mean, and not a moment wasted in the movie. Yeah. It's one of those. It's like a perfect movie.
It's a movie that made me appreciate golf
for sure.
I don't care about golf.
Exactly. I don't care about golf either. Right. That entire sequence and then playing back and forth and him tricking him and then Bond realizing he's being tricked and then pulling the double trick back on Goldfinger. Man, it's so good. It's so good.
And here's a little thing. Was it Gert Frobe?
Yeah, that plays
Goldfinger.
Yeah,
was speaking. He doesn't even know how to speak English.
He's dubbed the entire movie.
That whole movie's dubbed, and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah,
I mean, he's mouthing the words perfect. I've never seen a better dubbing job.
Aston Martin, man.
It's
so cool.
There's a reason that car is carried on.
Yep. All right, so then we move on to Thunderball. And
I believe Goldfinger has your favorite Bond girl as well.
Oh, it does. It does. Pussy Galore is my favorite Bond girl, for sure. She's my number 1. I guess we can kind of mention that as we go.
We can try. I
kind of wrote down a top 5. And so far we haven't touched in the other ones.
Thunderball is arguably a bigger movie.
Bigger budget, bigger.
By that time, scope. It was just had blown up.
Yeah,
and
it's almost for me. It's just because putting more into it doesn't make it more.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not equal to the sum of its parts. Whereas I think Goldfinger is a superior movie, but it was like bigger, more, bigger, and that was the whole thing. I think the advertising was even like the biggest Bond yet.
It was.
Bigger wasn't better.
I don't think so. Thunderball is a fantastic movie, and it has fantastic shots in it. And Domino might be.
She's up there.
She's up there for me. She might be number 2. Bond girls. I
actually put Fiona above her though, because she's like the femme fatale of the movie.
Yeah,
and I liked that began that.
Yeah, that's
really
cool.
the straight up bad girl.
Yeah,
and not. I like Domino.
Yeah, it's hard to.
But Fiona is really cool in the movie. She's fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
And all the underwater stuff. Well, it's crazy for the time, the stuff they were pulling off with that. But it is slow, and people give the same criticisms to Star Trek: The Motion Picture, where they're spending a lot of time showing the ship because they could do it, and that was like the first time they could do it. And a lot of this underwater stuff was cutting edge, and they're really showing it because they could do it. But for me, it slows things down sometimes, where there's so much time on the underwater stuff.
That's the fault of it. I mean, everything in between, I love and is done really well. but it's a little bit too much time underwater.
Yeah.
And everything's moving slow underwater too, so it's kind of like you get these gratuitous scenes.
Yeah.
So Thunderball is
another cool scene with Bond though, when they're on the beach, and him and Domino and Largo's henchman.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name. What's his name?
I don't.
Well, there's the bad guys coming, and Domino sees him, and Bond, cool as a cucumber, man, without even like flinching, he's turning and shooting the harpoon like before he even sees the dude. It's just like wham, the dude's dead. And like when he's getting emotional, he had put on the sunglasses. That was another cool scene right beforehand. He's talking with Domino, and he's having to tell her that her brother's dead.
Oh, yeah.
And he like puts on sunglasses to kind of hide emotion. It feels like, and he's got those sunglasses on, and he turns, and I'm like, one motion, harpoons the dude dead, and he's like, I think you got the point. Or something like that. It was so cool, man. And then the scene where Fiona's in the bathtub, and she's like, "Can you
hand me a towel?
Hand me something to put on." And he gives her shoes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good.
Super cool. All right, so next up we've got that's my number 4 for Connery Bonds.
Right. So
it's Goldfinger, For Merciful Love, Dr. No, Thunderball. Then we have the Casino Royale spoof movie.
Yeah, this is a weird thing where
weird.
Somebody else had the rights to Casino Royale. Once again, MGM didn't have it, or Eon, and so instead of doing a straight up movie, they were capitalizing on the Bond craze, but they did this spoof with David Niven and Peter Sellers, and the plot is that you don't know who is the real Bond. They're all calling themselves James Bond. Even Honey Ryder, first Bond girl Ursula Andress is in the movie, and they're all James Bond, and it's just this crazy, wacky adventure. Not a very good Bond film, but if you're into 60s camp, it's kind of fun in that way. If you just kind of take it for what it is, it's a lot of it's a visual treat.
Yeah,
it's very campy.
So many different directors doing so many different scenes.
Yeah,
they didn't know what each other were doing. It's just like this psychedelic.
It's a mess. It's a big mess. The movie is. But interestingly, that same year was another.
Yeah, it's Bond one of the only times where you got 2 Bond films in 1 year.
Twice.
Yeah,
happened
twice.
And you only live
twice. Hey
yo,
Bond is tired in this one, or Connery is tired.
He is tired, and this movie has its moments.
It does,
but it is not very good.
It's not,
and I have to say that the book. This is one of the instances where I enjoyed the book quite a bit more than I enjoyed the movie.
Little Nellie's cool. Little helicopter thing you get.
It's kind of cool. I don't think that Connery looks very cool wearing that helmet, though.
He doesn't look cool wearing the helmet. The big set at the end, the volcano base set,
that's awesome.
That was amazing.
That's awesome.
We also get our first look at Blofeld in this movie, and Donald Pleasance is playing him here. Yeah. There's not a lot to go on with him, so you can't really judge, his Blofeld based on that short, and it's the only time Pleasance plays Blofeld. Right. But it's okay.
It has its moments.
The whole him disguised as Japanese, though.
No, they don't even try.
They don't even try it. Come on, he doesn't look Japanese. Come on.
He does in the book.
But not in this.
But not in this.
Not in this. All right, so then we get Connery's done. He's like, that's it for me.
He's done.
No more for me.
So they get a new guy.
And it's George Lazenby for On Her Majesty's Secret Service in 1969.
He's not even an actor. He's
not even an actor.
He's a model.
But he bluffed his way into the role.
Well, they were very impressed with his physical prowess. He actually punched a guy during a
totally. Well, he heard they were casting. He'd only been in commercials. He went to the place where Connery got his haircut and said, give me the same haircut. He went to the place where Connery got the suit, and just went in there and was just like in the doorway just while the guy was on the phone and just bluffed his way through the entire thing. Pretended like he had acting experience, all this different stuff. Gets the role, and he's one of my favorite Bonds.
I gotta say, he's probably my second favorite Bond.
He's up there for me. He may be my number 2. It goes back and forth with the top 3 for me, but he's definitely up there. And rewatching them not too long ago, he stays up there. Yeah. Like I didn't really alter where I thought he stood as a Bond.
The movie has one of my, and he only did this one movie. It has one of my favorite opening sequences.
I agree.
He's chasing Tracy, who is Diana Rigg for Pete's sake, which is
one of my top Bond women.
One of my top Bond girls too. And he's got the coolest Aston Martin. The DB5 is awesome, but this Aston Martin gets no love whatsoever, and it's like this Highland green color, and he's just tearing down this.
Yeah, man.
And he spies her through the spying glass.
Well, before he even gets to there, he's like driving, but he's also getting a cigarette out while he's driving, and they're just like showing him all in shadow and dark.
So you got to understand, cool. Connery is Bond at this point.
Yeah.
And it's been this fever pace. He's been putting out, almost one a year. And George Lazenby comes by, so they kind of build it up by, you see his eyes in the mirror, or you see his mouth lighting the cigarette or whatever. You don't really show him. And then Tracy's walking into the water. He knows she's going to commit suicide. And he slams his glove box shut. I don't think it's his car door. Is his car door or his glove box? Whatever it is. And immediately tears off.
Oh, yeah.
He's down on the beach. And then he saves her. And then there's immediately this fight scene that ensues, which is one of my favorite fight scenes again.
Yeah.
And he's
very physical.
He's very, very physical. And then there's a point, and then people will argue about this.
Yeah.
I think it was
I know exactly where you're going.
I think it was a really good choice.
I do too.
Because they said, look, we got a new guy. We
have to acknowledge it.
We don't. It's like they didn't know what to do, but they just said, you know what? Let's acknowledge it. And for a second, and for the only time in the Bond films, he breaks the fourth wall, looks directly at the camera, and says, this never happened to the other fellow.
Yeah.
What?
I think that was cool.
It's very funny because for a second you're in on it and you say, okay,
I'm with it.
I'm with it.
They're acknowledging it happened. They're acknowledging it's somebody else.
What are you going to do?
And, and some people can kind of take it in universe and say that the 007 name, or the number just went to different guys over time, which a lot of people look at that. I've heard that theory, and I've thought about that theory before too. And you can kind of take it at that and excuse the fourth wall breaking. Then you could say, okay, well, he's acknowledging that there was another 007 before him. Yeah. But either way, it was a cool moment. And this movie is really filled with cool moments. I mean, the movie is all around super solid, and it's a lot of people's number one for Bond films, and it deserves it, man.
It's the only one where he gets married.
Yep.
It's the one
he's emotional throughout the entire movie. He falls in love, and I don't think, as much as I love Connery, you've gotten to know that Connery Bond and the way he is with women, that I don't think it'd be as easy to buy Connery falling in love. His Bond,
I don't know,
falling in love is as easy as it is to buy George Lazenby's Bond falling in love, because you've gotten to know the way the Connery Bond is. This is a new Bond, and you can kind of see the vulnerability, and you can see that he's emotional and he can become attached to this woman. And we get, I think, the best Blowfield too. Telly Savalas' Blowfield is really great. That ski scene is awesome.
The whole assault on the snowy mountain fortress is
great.
It's tops.
I also like that after this, he goes down and he's escaped on the one ski, and the bad guys are coming after him. He's lost all hope. You can see at a point where Bond's run out of ideas. And he's just kind of looking around and stuff, and he's pulling that coat around him, and he doesn't know what to do. Yeah. And that's when Tracy shows up. And then she kind of saves the day, and she's the one kind of saving him.
And she's been Emma Peel for the past few years, so there's no better pairing for Bond, I don't think, because of who she was in the Avengers.
Yep. She's my number 2 Bond.
She's she's up there, and that's a great pairing.
So you get to the whole movie. Yeah. He falls in love. They get married. And at the end of the movie, so originally the end of the movie was that they live a happily ever after. But at that point, I don't think it had been released, but they had filmed the scenes of the death or something like that for the beginning of the next movie that he was going to do. And then Lazenby and his agent said, spy movies are out. Right. You should get out of this.
This James Bond thing is over.
And so he quit, and so they changed the ending to it being her dying, and that's so much better.
So it is. I think I'm sure she dies in the book too, if I recall correctly. So
I think they were just saving it. They were making it a happy ending and saving it for the tag in the next film, which would have been George Lazenby. But instead, we get it at the end of this movie, and it works great. Yeah. And man, he's so emotional. When she dies, he can't. He's almost in shock. Yeah. And it's such a shame that the next movie didn't pick up right after that. Yeah. And I would have loved to have seen that Bond. It's kind of like the end of Casino Royale leading into Quantum of Solace or something like that, where you're coming off of this huge emotional break for him, and then it's nothing after that. You get so we're moving on to the next film.
We're going to talk about that. Okay, so the next film, George Lazenby's out, and they talk Connery into coming back. Yeah, which is it's crazy. It's a little bit bizarre.
It is.
I'm happy it happened. I think Diamonds Are Forever is fun.
It's probably my least favorite.
It's very weak in a lot of spots, and it has some, 71 things were changing. It just doesn't feel the same.
It doesn't.
It does have a lot of fun in it, good moments, but it's not the same.
It's not.
So that's the end for Connery. And Jill St. John, I want to say, is probably, as Tiffany Case, is in my top 5.
She's great. She gets a little annoying at sometimes, but she's great.
You don't know whether you can trust her through the whole thing.
Yeah, she keeps flipping back and forth. She's probably the most interesting thing in the movie.
Maybe.
Because Blofeld's awful.
Yeah.
I can't remember the actor's name. Jeff. I can't remember his name. But he's awful. He's a terrible Blofeld, in my opinion. And I think in this one, okay, so we're not jumping too much ahead to say that Connery does come back one more time and Never Say Never Again. That's in 1983. So almost 15 years or whatever after this film comes out.
Yeah.
12 years, whatever it is. So he comes back, but I think he looks worse in Diamonds Are Forever than he looks in Never Say Never Again.
He does.
He just looks really tired and just, even though it feels like he wants to be there more, he just looks really haggard in this film to me. And it's tough to kind of buy some of the scenes because they're still playing him as this young Bond and not acknowledging really his age, what they do in Never Say Never Again. Yeah. So, he donated all his salary. At this point, this is the highest paid actor right here in this Diamonds Are Forever, and he donated all to a charity.
I thought that was Never Say Never Again. That's why he did Never Say Never.
No, I think it's Diamonds Are Forever that he donated to charity. Okay. And Never Say Never Again, he actually took the money. And then he got like another movie deal or something out of it.
Okay.
If I remember right. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's Diamonds Are Forever. I could be wrong. I jumped around with my rating here. So, number 1 was Goldfinger. 2 was From Russia with Love. 3 was Dr. No. 4 was Thunderball. 5 for me is Never Say Never Again. 6 is You Only Live Twice, and 7 is Diamonds Are Forever. That's what it goes for me. I know we haven't got to Never Say Never Again yet, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
All right, so
who are they?
Already half an hour.
I know we got a book, but I think we can get through Roger Moore.
I think we can too, because I don't really like Roger Moore movies that much.
I don't either, but I do want to say I believe he played the Saint up to this point, and he had tried out for Bond, but he was too young, or he couldn't get out of his TV contract. I can't remember which.
Yeah,
but people expected Roger Moore basically to be Bond, I think.
Well, Timothy Dalton was up at this point.
Okay.
And he said, "I'm too young."
Okay.
And
Timothy Dalton loved the Ian Fleming novels, and he respected them probably more than any other actor. More than any other actor.
Yep. And that's why
we'll get to that.
You're a young actor and you're offered James Bond, and you turn it down because you feel like that would be wrong because you're too young to be that character. Yeah. That means you really know that character.
So we'll get to T-Dalt. But Roger Moore makes a very strong debut.
He does.
I want to say Live and Let Die is my favorite Roger Moore film.
Me too.
It has all the tenets of a fun Bond film. It has the exotic locations, which they all have exotic locations, but this one really comes together with a little bit of the peculiar, where the skull face, the voodoo guy, like it fits in. It's not just there just to be there. It fits in with the location.
Yeah, and it's playing off the blaxploitation cinema that was so popular.
And I want to say he's one of my favorite villains.
Oh, he's great
in that movie.
Mr.
Big, who is
Baron. What's his name?
Yeah, I can't remember
his name now.
I can't remember his other name.
I probably have it on this thing somewhere. I can't remember his name. Yeah. So, and I think it's the right take to do not a copy of Connery. He's very much he's more tongue in cheek.
Kananga.
Yeah, that's what it is. No, Kananga is Mr. Big. I'm talking about the voodoo guy.
Yeah. Oh,
Baron,
Baron
Samedi. Samedi, yeah. I knew it was an S.
Yeah.
So his is more tongue in cheek. It's more humorous. It's a different take than the Bond that was before. For me, visually, I can never buy him as Bond. I don't know what it is, but I can never. I have such a hard time looking at him and thinking he's James Bond. For some reason, it's just there's a disconnect for me. And I know a lot of people Roger Moore is their favorite.
Yeah.
But for me, I think there's way more misses than hits with Roger Moore. I think he's the one that has the most misses.
That's my opinion too. And the reason why, one of the reasons why this movie, I think, is still working for me is that they were carrying over still some of the Bond things. In later movies, he's just kind of wearing, and not that an outfit is the character,
a windbreaker,
but he wears the same tan windbreaker in like 5 movies. I can't tell them apart.
This at the end where he's wearing like the black turtleneck,
he's got the black turtleneck,
and the holster. That's cool looking.
Dirty Harry, I believe, had come out.
Yeah, that's a cool look.
Oh wait, maybe Dirty Harry wasn't out at this point. I can't remember, but anyway, he's got the 44 Magnum, and it's a great look. It's
a really neat look.
And also, the movie features
Solitaire.
Solitaire is probably might be my number one.
She's up there for me, man.
She might be. Jane Seymour is. I mean, in all honesty, without perving out here. I mean, seriously,
Don't perv out, man.
She's just a striking, painfully beautiful woman.
I would agree with you.
I don't know how else to put it. I'm not ashamed of it.
The only thing is that, okay, so she's interesting because she's got the power, which is no other Bond girl has any kind of mystical power.
Right.
That's interesting. And visually, she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's not a lot going on with the character.
That's true. But it's enough to maybe get me to number one.
That's the only thing that keeps her really kind of off my radar as much for a whole top five. Is I like that the other ones have a lot more dimensions to them than she does. Although she is great. Visually she's cool. She's got a cool look. I like the power thing, and I like that she's kind of the focus of the bad guy and the whole thing with her. And I love that Roger Moore tricks her into.
What a sleazy move!
Go to bed with him. He puts all the same cards in the tarot deck.
Now picture James Bond. Roger Moore has to go into a little occult shop down there in Jamaica or wherever they were, and he buys like 52 decks of cards.
Put all the same cards
to pull all the love cards out.
Cards. It was a pretty sleazy move.
It was sleazy.
There's a lot of sleazy moves going on.
It was really sleazy. Roger Moore also is notorious for saying that he did not like Bond's violent nature and thought that he should. And I think that starts to.
It starts to show.
It starts to show a little bit as he goes on. Live and Let Die. Man with the Golden Gun is my second favorite.
Really? It's kind of lower for me. I think the villain's great.
Oh yeah,
Christopher Lee is great. Pistol Scaramanga is great.
Yeah,
and the gun is one of the coolest devices in any James Bond film. But I think that the plot itself is a little on the weak side. Yeah. It's just kind of I'm gonna have to take this guy out before he takes me out. And the whole the Bond girl isn't as great in this one. That's Maud Adams.
Yes,
one of her two Bond roles.
Yes, Maud Adams. Why she's got two roles, I don't know.
I don't know either. Her second role is better than her first role. I think she's better as Octopussy than she is. Yeah, an Octopussy than she is in this. Yeah. Other than Pistol Scaramanga being so cool, though, I don't know if it's that good. And I was in the same boat. I was like, okay, this is probably my number two. Yeah. But the more I thought about them, I'm like, okay, well, these other ones, the plot's kind of better, and they do a better job on this. So for me, that's number 4.
Okay.
There's a couple that are a little bit better than that, in my opinion. So, I mean, we're going to have to breeze through some of these a little quicker. So The Spy Who Loved Me. That's got that great scene where he explains that he killed... That's this one, right? This is Spy Who Loved Me, where he explains that he killed her lover, or the love of her life, or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
And so she's like angry at him. She like hates him now.
Yes.
And then the very next scene, they're like hanging from this line, or they parachuted somewhere or something like that. And he's giving her this like puppy dog smile, like
it's really corny looking.
You forgive me. And then she's kind of looking away, and then she kind of looks back and smiles, like okay, it's okay that you killed him. It's pretty silly. We get then introduced to Jaws, which is one of the most memorable of the henchmen in this film. This is probably my number 2 Roger Moore movie.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty solid.
It's pretty solid.
I like the whole. They kind of work together, but she's kind of on the other team. I think the scenes with Jaws are pretty fun.
Yeah.
The whole plot is kind of neat in this movie. So for me, it's my number 2 Roger Moore. Okay. I think it's got more going for it.
I could be talked into that.
Yeah, check it out, man.
Then
we get the worst.
79. Star Wars had come out, and the space movies were all the rage.
Yeah.
And what can we do with Bond? Well, Moon is in the title of this one Bond movie. So
let's do that.
Yeah, with this book.
That's like space.
So the book is fantastic. And the movie is not really anything like the book. No. Although they did steal some parts and scenes from it. Moonraker is like half and half. There are some really good things in it. And I really think the first half of the movie is probably solid and is playing as a Bond movie. And then it starts getting really silly.
Oh, yeah, man.
They go into outer space. There's all kinds of laser battles.
And they move slow.
Yeah, they're moving real slow.
They're moving real slow in the ship. It's like, wait a second, that really is only when they're out doing like spacewalks and stuff, and they have to move slow. But they're moving slow for just like turning dials and stuff, like as if it's...
That's how you know they're in space.
You know they're in space because they're moving slow-mo.
And Jaws returns, and he finds a love, and it's
silly.
It's like
she's got like this weird.
It's like this Harry and the Hendersons movie,
and they're together on the space.
Harry and the Hendersons part.
It's not good at all.
It's
I had trouble.
It's kind of a shame.
I can always, when I look back through this list of Bond films, and I'm like, oh, this one, I remember this. There's a couple of these more ones where I'm like, man, I don't even remember a lot of this film.
That's what I'm saying. I can't. For Your Eyes Only.
That one has the great opener. For Your Eyes Only has the opener where he's visiting Tracy's grave.
Okay.
And then Blofeld attacks. And he kills Blofeld in the smokestack. That's because they lost They can't call him Blofeld even, because they don't have the rights to Blofeld at this point.
It should have been a good.
It should have been
opener. There's a slide whistle sound, I believe, when they drop him down the smokestack.
They do. They need to get rid of that.
And he picks him up with the helicopter rungs.
But at least they addressed the Tracy thing.
At least they addressed it. Yes.
This feels like this should have came after. On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah.
And I like that there's minimal gadgets in this. And it's a darker Roger Moore. Like, he kills the one guy by pushing that car off the side.
That was cool.
It was a dark moment. And I think Melina is one of the strongest of the Bond girls. I think that her whole story, you get an actual story with her parents getting killed and stuff. And her on a vengeance to find out, who killed them. And them teaming up. She's top 5 for me, Melina is.
Okay.
And this is my third favorite Roger Moore film.
Okay.
I think it's more of a step in the right direction. Moonraker took things way into camp, and this tries to pull it back some more. It's still got the cheesy, jokey stuff with Roger Moore, but it feels like it's a lot more serious.
Which movie is the one where the guy's holding on to his tie, and they're standing on a rooftop, and the only thing keeping him is he's holding on to Bond's tie, and Bond gets whatever piece of information, then he smacks the tie out of the guy's hand, and he falls to his death.
I can't remember.
That's one part. That and him kicking that car over
kicking the car,
or two moments where I think, wow, he really pulled that off.
Yeah,
I mean that was
up there.
That was a turn. Yeah, that was cool.
Next up is Octopussy in 1983, and this is the other year where we get 2 Bond films in one year.
That's right.
So originally he was not going to be Bond in this film. Roger Moore was not. It was going to be James Brolin, and they started doing filming with him. And then that's when the other guy that had the rights to Thunderball announced that he was doing a new Bond film that was a remake of Thunderball and bringing Connery back. And that's when Productions and Broccoli said, "Oh, well, we can't try out a new Bond. It's got to be our Bond versus their Bond, and whichever Bond wins." There was a lot of there's a lot of art and stuff from that time where it's those two back to back, and it was the Battle of the Bonds. For me, Connery wins between these two films. Never Say Never Again, even though it's a remake versus Octopussy. Octopussy's a little bit weak.
It's pretty weak. It's got Maud Adams as the main villainess.
It's got Kamal Khan, which I liked him, that bad guy, and it's got a whole convoluted plot between him and they're turning their backs on Octopussy and they want to sneak a nuclear warhead in.
This is the one where he's doing the chase through the streets with on a float or something like that. The Moonraker's got the boat car. Okay.
Yeah. I made a note right next to Moonraker because I remember the boat car scene and I wanted to make sure it was Moonraker. So yeah, that's got the boat car. Okay. But yeah, this has also got it's just there's a lot of cheese going on.
Yeah.
But there are some cool scenes there. I think it's got the henchman with the yo-yo buzzsaw, like the saw blade.
The yo-yo thing. Yeah,
that's kind of neat.
This is the one where he's on a train in the circus or something, and he's with the gorilla.
Yeah, it does have that.
Yeah, okay.
That's rough.
That's pretty rough.
So there's some rough stuff in there.
And he is noticeably. I'm not against Roger Moore.
He's getting old,
but he's noticeably.
He's got what? One more after this?
Yeah, one more after this. Beyond his years, and so Never Say Never is out. Never Say Never Again is. Having rewatched it recently, I think it's really a solid movie, and I was really impressed with how they sold Bond without being able to use the Bond theme song when he enters the room or anything like that. There was nothing that they could play on. He couldn't even say "shake and not stirred" when he orders a martini.
Use any of the stuff they introduced in the movie.
I think because it was Sean Connery in part, you buy it. But it's got Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean.
Yes,
Mr. Bean is in it.
He's funny.
He's funny. It's got a strong villainess. Kim Basinger is the Bond girl who is up, even though she's not official, she's in my top 5.
Yeah.
It's visually good. I like the opening. We talked about the opening at the beginning, I like that better than the build up for Thunderball, where he's on assignment and then all of a sudden, you need to go rest up.
Yeah.
In this, they're actually doing a training sequence, and he kind of falls short, and it builds up. So
they're addressing his age too,
right?
Whereas in Roger Moore's, they're not addressing his age.
And as you said, he really doesn't look any worse than he did in Diamonds Are Forever.
I think he looks better here.
Yeah,
and they're addressing the fact that he is older, and that He's got to do these things, and it is a remake of Thunderball, but it doesn't.
It's different enough from Thunderball.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't completely feel. You can see the plot is the same, but it's different enough that it doesn't completely feel like a remake.
Yeah,
and we're distanced far enough away from it at that point that you would accept this. And they're what? How many years apart between those two films?
15, I think you said.
Let's see. So Thunderball was 1965, and this is 1983. It's almost 20 years apart.
Yeah. It's Irvin Kershner.
He directed it. Yeah.
Directs it, and it's got a cameo. The henchman is the same guy who was the thuggy.
Yeah.
And the German mechanic and Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that.
It puts the P on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's...
And he's not invincible. Bond's not invincible in the movie, which is nice. I like it.
I like it a lot, too. I think
it's definitely better than Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
And I think it's better than You Only Live Twice. I think it's a better Bond film than both. And between the two, I think that Octopussy made more money. But for me, Never Say Never Again was the better film.
I think it's aged pretty well.
Yeah.
Then Roger Moore does A View to a Kill in 85. And that's his last one.
Christopher Walken's fun in this as the villain.
Yes.
He's very good.
Christopher Walken is good.
He looks really old in the film. Roger Moore does at this point. And there's a whole thing with him and like a young, like, isn't that the one with the skater, BB? Isn't that it? Is that this one? Or is that the one? No,
I can't remember. One. Guys, I'm so sorry that we're a little bit sloppy, but it's...
Maybe that was For Your Eyes Only.
I don't know. It's got Grace Jones in it.
Yeah, okay. I'm confusing the two. I think that maybe it is For Your Eyes Only that has BB in it.
Okay.
But it's got the young girl that's like, you remember what I'm talking about? At that point, he's really old. So in this one, he's super old.
Right.
Like he's very old.
It's got Grace Jones in it. It is actually I'm not a Grace Jones fan, but I do like her in this. And this is the debut of Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
Plays her bodyguard, I think. So he's got a little part. Patrick McNee makes an appearance. So this is the third and final Avengers, because Pussy Galore was also the first Avenger before Emma Peel came.
Yeah.
And I'm mixing all the names.
That's right, Honey Rider. Yeah, Honor Blackman.
Honor Blackman, and then it was Diana Rigg.
That's right.
And they all went on to do a Bond movie.
Patrick McNee's really good in this too.
Yeah, he's always fun to watch.
I like the whole sequence where he's playing the tape, where he's ordering them around, just make it seem like they're still in the room. I thought that was all fun. But it's just not that great. It's not that great of a movie.
Like I said, these movies they start the last few really blend together.
Yeah, that's why I was confusing the BB thing, because the Roger Moore films, they do kind of blend together, because none of them are huge standouts for me. There's nothing that really grabbed me in the Roger Moore films other than Live and Let Die, really, and Pistol Scaramouche in the second movie, where they just kind of blend. So then we get a new Bond. It's time for a new Bond in 1987 with The Living Daylights, the most underrated Bond of all. He only does 2 movies. Timothy Dalton.
Yeah. For a long time, Timothy Dalton was my least favorite, and in part because they weren't as visually extravagant.
Yeah.
And in part because it was the 80s, and that kind of mullet look was in, where you could have a receding hairline and have a mullet, and that was okay. And so I always kind of brushed him off because of that. I was like, that's not really James Bond. But
going back and rewatching them,
they're great. And like I said, Timothy Dalton, we talked about, seems to really respect that role, really respected the character, really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And is great in the role.
Yeah.
He's great. He does have a toughness.
It does. It was kind of like, for me, it's like 1989 Batman and totally course correcting where the 60s Batman had taken Batman.
Yeah.
So Roger Moore had taken, and not his fault. I mean, he was doing films.
They were doing films.
They had gone completely camp, and it was a funny, jokey, cheesy, a lot of stuff going on. This was like, okay, now we're going to take Bond back to the way Ian Fleming originally wrote Bond. He's going to be dark, and he's not going to be cracking jokes all the time. There's spots for humor, but this is going to be a much darker Bond. And I don't think people were really ready for it, and that's maybe why it got the backlash it did, and that he still kind of, people look back at those and go, Timothy Dalton's, those are bad. Yeah. I think it's because the public said it was bad then, and that's just carried forward. All these years, if something gets not well received back then, like the 87 Motu movie, I hate to keep relating it to other things I like, but if it's not received well back then it gets this, the snowball starts rolling down the hill, and then everybody just believes, oh, I've always heard those are awful. I've always heard those are terrible. But you don't actually go back and give it a chance because you've always heard it's awful. These two Timothy Dalton films are awesome.
This one has I think my favorite opening sequence of the two. Where he's on the training mission, they're doing paintball, and then one of the guys is actually killing people.
Yeah.
And he has to parasail down onto the boat and makes a phone call from there. And
he says, pick me up an hour, and then she says something to him like
suggestive or whatever.
Make it 2 hours. Yeah. So, or something like that.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
It is.
I mean, it's an exciting opening.
And it's dark. It's a really dark film. The second one's even darker. License to Kill is even darker than Leaving Daylights. But both of these would not even happened with him had Remington Steele not been renewed.
Right. Because
Pierce Brosnan was going to be Bond. Right. That was it. He was going to be in this movie. That was going to happen. And then they renewed Remington Steele at the last minute, and so he was committed to that.
Yeah.
And so then Timothy Dalton, who was talked about before, gets brought in to do these two movies. License to Kill comes after this in 1989. 1989 was a huge year for movies.
Yeah.
So no matter how good or bad this is, it's going to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Because you've got Batman, you've got Ghostbusters 2, you've got the new Indiana Jones film, you've got the new Star Trek film. It's a huge year for movies. So no matter what you do, this movie's going to get kind of lost in the shuffle here. And License to Kill is one of my top 5 favorite Bond movies.
It takes a lot from the short stories that were left over and blends those.
It's so good. You get Felix Leiter and the connection with him, and then you see Bond going on basically a personal vendetta.
I was going to say, is this
after what's happened to him. This
is the first one where he has his license to kill revoked.
Yeah.
And then he
just goes out on his own. He's like, I'm going to do this on my own then. Yeah. And man, it's fun from start to finish. The way he's infiltrating into there, and it's a whole thing of revenge for him to get, revenge for Felix and what's happened to him. Man, it's so good. It's so good. When I think about watching Bond films, if I'm like, okay, maybe I'll watch a Bond movie tonight or something, it's usually going to be Goldfinger or License to Kill now, because after rewatching these a year or so ago, when I think about Bond movies, I keep wanting to go back and rewatch this one again and again because, man, Timothy Dalton's so good, and it's just a lot of fun to watch this movie.
And there's a big lull.
There is.
And it's a shame. 6 years. And it's a shame there wasn't another.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton, because I think it would have been even better than the last one.
I think they would have. And really, he could have played him well into the 90s.
For sure.
Easily.
For sure.
But GoldenEye comes around, and it was a big deal. I do remember this being a big deal.
It was. And not just because of the game.
Right. Which is one of the best,
video games ever made. Time. Yep.
I do remember the ad for it, and Pierce Brosnan, they believe he's in silhouette, he's in shadow kind of, and he walks up and it's the Bond music playing, and then he comes in the light and he's like, you were expecting someone else?
Yeah.
And it's like, of course we weren't expecting anybody else. It's got to be you, man.
It's got to be you now.
And you know what? Rightfully so. He's not got all of my favorite Bond movies.
He doesn't.
But I think Pierce Brosnan captures something from all of the previous Bonds. He has the charm, the wit, the look, the class, and he can get he's very believable when he has to get violent.
Yeah.
And, Connery's my favorite. Lazenby's my second. Daniel Craig might be my third at this point, but...
Daniel Craig used to be my third, but rewatching these, I think Timothy Dalton is probably my...
That's true.
He may be my second now. I really like Timothy Dalton.
It's hard to...
It's tough. For years for me, it was Connery, Lazenby, Craig.
Yeah.
Now I really feel like Timothy Dalton's up there, man. Yeah. Even though he only got the 2 outings. Pierce Brosnan's probably Roger Moore is without a doubt my least favorite Bond. Yeah. Without a doubt. And then I think Pierce is right ahead of him. Yeah. But it's not really his fault. It's the movie's fault that is the case.
Yeah.
Because a lot of his movies, or half of his movies, I don't really enjoy.
GoldenEye was a strong start.
GoldenEye was good. It's my favorite of his.
It's my favorite too. It's my number one.
I think Tomorrow Never Dies is a step back. But I will say that GoldenEye has one of my top favorite Bond girls, and that's Xenia Onatopp.
Yeah.
Famke Janssen is an awesome bad guy.
Yeah.
She's really good in this movie.
She is good.
And the whole Agent 006 and him becoming a bad guy and the relationship between him and Bond, that was really good.
It was good.
So GoldenEye is good.
The jump off the dam.
Oh, that's good.
Is a really good.
That's good.
Scene. It has a lot of good moments in it. It's
the other three blend together for me though.
They do. The World Is Not. Tomorrow Never Dies is 97, and that has one of my favorite Bond girls was Wei Lin.
Yeah, she was good. Yeah, she was really good.
Was it Michelle Yeoh?
Yeah.
And she's a secret agent too.
That was good.
And they both team up. And that has, surprisingly, just a lot of really good
But the villain is weak.
Stuff between.
He's just like some corporate dude.
I don't even remember the villain.
It was Elliot Carver.
Oh.
He was just some like weird corporate dude.
Wait. I have to look.
You'll see. When you see him, you'll know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
He's weak. He's a very weak villain.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the one where he's owns a news network.
Yeah.
And he's creating bad things so that he can get news.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very weak.
That's awful.
It also has Terry Hatcher.
It does have Terry Hatcher, and she's good in it.
And she's good in it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, they have this history, him and Terry Hatcher, and they get together.
Yeah.
And she gets killed right away, and then right after that, they have to do a car chase, and he's using.
He does their own remote control. It's awful.
He's doing a remote control car chase, and he's like laughing like a little boy who gets to use his toy.
And there's no way he's controlling this car with this little thing.
I was like, dude,
because he's in the back seat of the car, I think, or something. And he's using the remote inside the car, maybe?
I can't remember if
he's ducked down and they're shooting at the car, maybe?
I think he might be in the back seat.
He may be in the back seat. But
he's having a really good time, man. And this woman that he
just was killed.
Loved was just killed. Also, the henchman who kills her is the guy
from Batman Returns.
Yep.
And that whole sequence was good.
And he's a fantastic villain.
But for me, it's a weak film. The World Is Not Enough comes after it in 1999.
The plot is weak. It has a lot of good stuff. The World Is Not Enough is not very good.
It's not very good either.
At all.
Yeah. And it's got Elektra in it, and she's good. Like the film, the evil girl.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with him where he has to kill her at the end, even after he has feelings for
Elektra King.
That was kind of fun.
And
that was kind of well done.
That was a good twist.
For me, they go progressively worse. It's number 1, then number 2, then number 3.
Yeah,
then number 4.
I think so.
And then number 4 is Die Another Day, and that's
Die Another Day. I saw in the theater.
I've seen it one time. I think
that movie's crap.
It's not good at all. It's really not good.
It's really not good. And I'm trying to think of a good.
Is that the one with the horrible like surfing scene?
It's got the bad surfing scene.
Yeah.
It's got the
ice stuff.
The villain who has diamonds that are lodged in his face.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
Just
get those removed, dude.
It's just in the skin.
Just get them out of there.
There's and the villain has a robot.
That's right.
Suit or something that he puts on. It's like a mech suit.
Oh.
And it has Halle Berry doing just terrible dialogue, which is not her fault, but it's just the whole thing is just garbage.
Yeah.
From beginning to end,
it's bad.
You know what? At the beginning of it, I think Pierce Brosnan gets amnesia or something.
Oh, that's right.
And it has a kind of a cool opening.
Got a beard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool.
He's been a prisoner.
Yeah. So that was neat. And it has...
that is that one, right?
Yeah.
See, again, these are blended together. Like, the ones I don't like as much just kind of blend together for me. And the ones I really like...
This movie's over the top. It's got Madonna in it, and she teaches a fencing school.
She does the song, too.
She does the song, and there's a scene. They're doing a sword...
I forgot she was actually in the movie, too.
Bond and somebody else are doing a sword fight through the movie, through this thing. And there's a point where the guy literally pulls a chair from out on the side and puts it in the middle of this giant aisleway that Bond could easily run around.
Yeah.
And he does it... and then he steps back. And there's really no reason for him to have done it other than so Bond can then do a Fred Astaire move over the top of the chair and start sword fighting again.
Yeah.
Very poor.
It's rough.
So, anyway, without a doubt, we need to reset.
Oh, without a doubt. This is taking it way too far.
It started off good with GoldenEye, and in just a short amount of time, they got way back all the way to the camp again.
Yeah. And he was already starting to look a little older by Die Another Day.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he could probably have pulled it off for a few more years, but it was time.
Right.
It was time for a reset. So we get Casino Royale in 2006.
And this was a big controversy over his
casting. We were both worried about this.
Yes, because for one, everybody's freaking out that he's technically blonde.
Yeah.
And Bond is not blonde, so there was a little concern. My main concern was the promo shot they showed of him. I don't know what he'd just come off of, but he was very scrawny. Yeah. He was very skinny looking. It was very...
He had a weird face. He looked like Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day.
It was just...
Or not Groundhog's Day, but Caddyshack.
It was very concerning.
Yeah.
And like I said, finally they get rights to Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last Fleming novel that hasn't been done...
And the first.
Properly, and the first novel.
Yeah.
And they finally get rights to it, and they announce him, and it's just like, oh boy,
this could be bad.
We don't know. And this is the first Bond novel that I got to read the novel before seeing the movie.
Yeah.
So I was already familiar with the novel. Then the trailer hits, and all my worries went away.
For sure.
Right away. Daniel Craig was obviously putting in 110%. He had gotten beefed up for the role. He cut his hair short. The blonde didn't show up. I don't know if they darkened it a little bit, but it just didn't seem like, this is a non-issue at all. It doesn't even matter.
Yep.
I still didn't know how he's going to be, but they were showing Eva Green as Vesper Lind was just stunning, and Mathis, and everything just seemed there are no gadgets.
Yeah.
And the I couldn't tell you how many times I watched that trailer. I was so
it was so good.
Excited about it. And then it comes out, and I went and saw it 6 times, I believe, at the theater. 5 times by myself.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't.
It was great.
I just couldn't get enough of it.
It was great.
And you hadn't seen it. And I do remember I have a fond memory of this. I told you, I was like, James, it's so good. You have to see it. Yeah. And it came out on DVD, and you're like, all right, we'll watch it before work. So I came in. We came in early and watched it on my laptop at work. In like 2 or 3 parts.
I totally forgot that.
And after the first day, you were like, I can't wait to continue this. I have to see the next. That movie.
It was really great. It's one of my favorite Bond movies for sure.
It's an epic.
It's probably number 2 a Bond film for me.
I will say, when I think of, there's a lot of things that are new that we don't like, and generally, older things we say are better. This is one of the things I think of when I think of there's still good stuff.
Yeah, totally.
That happens.
Yep.
This is one of the things, and that movie, as a Bond movie and as just a movie in general,
it's great villain,
great
Bond girl, great visuals, great fights.
Mess Mikkelsen is a fantastic villain
as La Sharif.
The fight scenes were gritty and real, and
we haven't had this kind of emotional attachment between Bond and a woman since On Our Majesty's Secret Service. The attachment that he has for Vesper towards the end is really there. Yeah. I mean, you could see, and then for him to find out that the whole time things weren't as they seemed, really is like gut-wrenching.
Yeah. And there was lots of things from the book. I was really surprised at how close it was to the novel. Being set in modern times, they really did as much as they could to make it, to keep that story intact. And some of the lines one of the lines from the book that I was hoping was in, made it in.
Yeah.
And just
the opening sequence too. Where he gets his 00. Yeah, he gets his 00.
Even the song by Chris Cornell, I thought, Chris Cornell. Dude. The song is good.
We didn't even mention all the songs.
The song is good.
It's up there.
We don't have time.
That one's up there for me. Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney, obviously. Goldfinger by Shirley Bassey's up there. Duran Duran's View to a Kill is really good. Aha's Living Daylights is really good. Yeah. So there's so many great songs and stuff. But this is I really like the Casino Royale theme by Chris Cornell. I think it's really good. Okay, so then we get Quantum of Solace.
Okay, this is we're going to part ways from here out, maybe, or at least I know we do on Quantum of Solace, and I don't really enjoy Quantum of Solace as much as you do. I think me and Nate maybe are also flipped on some of it, but Quantum of Solace, when we saw it in the theater, we did, and walked out disappointed, because Casino Royale was such a high. It was so good. Well, in Casino Royale she has died, and he is Bond now. Yeah. Like the last scene, he's the Bond where he's detached himself from the kind of emotion where he's doing the job. It's business now. Yeah. He's all business. And the next movie just kind of immediately backtracks on that, it felt like to me, where he's obsessed with this emotional thing that he's got going on. Yeah. I don't know. The villain wasn't nearly as good. Did you watch this again when you went there? Okay. I will say that I enjoyed it more than I remembered enjoying it. I would say his being Bond at the end of Casino Royale is the beginning of his revenge for what happened to Vesper still. That could be. Because the next movie, it's all about revenge. Comes in continuing right where that movie left off. He's got that dude in his trunk. Yep. And then just the style of the movie, to me, it all really adds up to a nice a good feel. It's got a good pace to it. It's got the personal stuff, and it really it works as a straight action movie. And I don't know, it kind of got panned, and I don't think
it's bad. I don't think it's bad. Back then, I thought it was bad.
Yeah.
But rewatching it, I do like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it nearly as much as the other Daniel Craig movies, though.
I think he's got his outfits work great. I mean, it's just like a great look.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The villain is weak.
Yeah.
The villain is weak. The villain's plot is a bit weak, but I do enjoy him. I enjoy Daniel Craig as Bond, and that carries forward the movie for me.
Yeah. There's another thing going for it too, which is he doesn't get the Bond girl, and I can't remember. Olga or I can't remember her name. Olga Kuriel. She plays Camille.
Yeah.
And they both sort of have this revenge mission going on.
I do like at the end when he finds Vesper's lover.
Yeah.
And goes after him.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
But this is the Bond girl through the movie, and he doesn't get her.
No, he doesn't. That's kind of interesting.
I thought that was a great touch because they do. I think they kiss just once at the end, but it was sort of like there's been this tension the whole time, but they're not.
It's not going to happen.
They're both brokenhearted. Yeah. They're both on this mission for revenge. So I like that he didn't get her. Oh, this is the movie where he comes in, the girl's covered in oil.
Yes.
And I thought that was a fantastic throwback to Goldfinger. Yeah. I think the shot is even the same angle when he comes in the room as Goldfinger was, and it's an obvious nod.
Totally.
A heavy nod.
Yeah.
But by that time, I thought, I don't mind that so much because it really...
Then we get Skyfall in 2012.
Yeah.
That's probably my third favorite. I like the villain. I like the whole plot between him and him.
Yeah. This is one... I think this is where me and Nate are flipped on Skyfall and Quantum of Solace. And
what do you like this one?
I like this one less than Quantum of Solace.
I'm with Nate. I like this one more than Quantum of Solace.
It does have
stronger.
It does have great style.
It does.
I did not care too much for the whole... I didn't like him going back to his childhood home, and there's a guy who's taking care of that still, and he's like, hey, where's all the guns? Well, Mr. Bond, I just sold those 2 weeks ago. So you had them for 30 years, and then you just decided to sell them.
I do like the defense of the house, though, and all that stuff. I think that's kind of fun.
It could have been fun. Maybe it played a whole lot like a Home Alone. It played like Home Alone.
A little bit like Home Alone, but it was still, I thought it was fun.
And you got M and the other guy. They know bad people are after them, and they're up in the barn with a flashlight at night. And when they show it, the flashlight is just like moving all around.
They're playing lightsabers.
Yeah, they're playing lightsabers up there. So there are some things that just fell apart where I thought, for the style of the movie and the villain, it's the guy from No Country for Old Men. He was a good villain.
I think he was really good.
And so it did have a lot going for it. And then this is going to sound petty, but the CG Komodo dragon.
Oh yeah, that was a little rough.
It's like there have been some rough effects in some of the movies before, but CG has not really been used like that for a character or a creature up to this point, and so that kind of took me out of the whole thing.
I can see that.
So it's a minor point. I did like it more the second watch. Having watched it again, I did like it more than I did the first time.
Well, that's the way you felt about Spectre too. Like you didn't really enjoy Spectre.
That's true.
And then you and I, where we both did the rewatch.
Yeah.
I came around to Quantum of Solace a bit. You came around to Spectre a little bit. I like Spectre.
I like Spectre too.
I completely agree with your major problem with it is that there doesn't need to be a connection between Blofeld and Bond. There doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
But taking that out of the film, I think everything else is great.
Go ahead.
I especially love the scene where Bond is like he's snuck in to the whole Spectre meeting or whatever, and Blofeld already knows he's there. And like when he looks up at him and it like kind of addresses him in the room, and then Bond's got to get out of there. I loved that scene. Like there's so much tension in that scene. And I don't remember the name of the actor, but this is my favorite Blofeld.
I was going to say
it's either him or Telly Savalas, but I really like him as Blofeld.
It's the guy who played in Inglourious Basterds.
Yes, he's really good.
He's Christoph Waltz. He was fantastic as Blofeld.
Yeah.
I love him as Blofeld. I think that was probably the best thing about the movie.
I like the trap at the end. I like the whole bringing him in. Maybe it's a little bit on the far-fetched side. The whole sequence is a little bit far-fetched, but I did enjoy it. I liked the face-to-face. I like that he's got the Blofeld scar.
Yeah.
I like Bond's decision at the end not to kill him. And I like how it kind of left it open-ended for the next film. I think that it was a nice ending that kind of hooks you in, like, oh, is Bond done? That's it.
Yeah.
Is he done? And so it wasn't just another ending where, like, oh, there's another adventure that ends, but this one actually leaves you with questions going into the next film. I think there's some really great action sequences.
Yeah.
I like that the return of the henchman with some kind of odd thing that goes on with him, with the thumbnail thing that Batista had.
I liked it. I like that Spectre's back.
I do too.
I did like the aesthetic with the New Orleans and him wearing the skull mask. It's kind of harkening back to Live and Let Die a little bit, and it does have things going for it.
For sure.
Blofeld being the most. I thought the car chase was like a slow motion.
I know you didn't enjoy the car chase, but the opening sequence thing is fun.
What was the opening sequence?
Where he's got the mask on, and he's running around, and
it was really
the assassination attempt or whatever.
That was fun. I don't think there's been a stinker opening sequence in any of the Craig movies. There's always a chase, but it's.
I like Spectre.
It's good.
It's my second favorite.
It was good. Second favorite.
It's my second favorite. For me, it's Casino Royale, Spectre, Skyfall, Quantum of Solace, and I look forward to the next one. He's doing one more at least.
Okay. I look forward to that.
It keeps going back and forth as to who's directing it, when it's coming out, all that stuff. But I'm down for one more Daniel Craig.
Yeah,
I think he can pull off one more.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah,
he can do it.
All right, well that's it, man.
That
was longer than I expected.
I know it was hard. We barely got to any of the supporting actors. Bernard Lee as M is my favorite M.
Oh, for sure.
Judi Dench is my least favorite M.
I agree. And all the helper guys along the way, like
all the
Tiger and
Felix Leiter's been played by several different guys.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have to pick one from each guy and do a full episode on one of those movies.
I think that would be fine.
Like
pick out one episode from each, or the best movie from each one.
Yeah, but you certainly haven't heard the end of our James Bond talk, and give us your thoughts. Give us your top 5.
Go on actionfeatures.net, give us your top 5, either movies or top 5 favorite Bonds, whatever you want to make.
Yeah, rank your Bonds if you want to, which is kind of what we did.
What we were off on, or what you agree with us on. Yeah, give us some interaction on there.
Or on Facebook.
On Facebook, or on wherever you want to do an interaction. All right. Sign off on this?
Sign off.
You doing music on the way out, or what?
There's no outro music.
Okay.
Nobody does it better. Never say never again. Nobody does it better.